Welcome to the Almost Honest channel. Before you listen to another real-life love story, please hit like on this video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Hello, I want to tell you my real-life story, or rather, the story of my infidelity. A wife's cheating is always a bad thing. But that's what men think. Men who forget that a woman needs warmth and affection, and most importantly, attention and care. For me, my husband is not the ideal man after the love story that happened to me not so long ago. That's what the story will be about. If you don't mind, please hit like on this video. And now, I'll begin. Well then, if there are no questions, please disperse. I wish you all a productive workday. Summed up the morning meeting, the chief physician of the sanatorium. The crowd slowly filed out of the conference room. I also reluctantly shuffled toward the door. My head was a mess of half-forgotten dreams and fragments of the boss's instructions I had just heard. Oh, speaking of fertilization, I had not taken my pill this morning. I reached into my purse and felt the familiar blister pack. Yep, there it was, untouched. When I get to the nurse's station, must not forget. My eyes blurred from the sea of backs in bright white coats. With my eyelids lowered, I shuffled forward in small steps along with my colleagues. Another long, hectic day at our health resort was ahead, promising, in all likelihood, nothing interesting. I had only been working here about a month, but I had already learned to predict such things. "Hi," came an unexpectedly pleasant male voice from somewhere to my right and above. "Hello," I perked up, craning my neck to see the speaker. He turned out to be a tall, charismatic doctor of middle years. I had seen him around several times and had already mentally added him to the list of people I would like to get to know better. I do not know why, but I was immediately drawn to this stately man who clearly knew his worth. And whenever he threw a brief, studying glance my way, something inside me clenched. "Few men have that effect on me. Your friend told me you had some business with me," he continued in a measured, slightly mysterious tone. "What business?" I smiled awkwardly, raising my eyebrows. Well, business, not that I would mind. As they say, any business is a pleasure with a man like that. But what did he mean? Was this just a cheap pickup line? It could not be. I did not think that was his style. About the filling. "She said you needed a tooth fixed," he hurried to clarify. "Ah, right, that is true. So you are the dentist here?" "Yes. Ryan. Nice to meet you." "Nice to meet you too. I am Irene." I quickly pulled my hand out of my purse to seal our acquaintance with a handshake. My office is on the second floor, but in the opposite wing of the building. Drop by when you have time. We agreed that I would come to see him at exactly 6 in the evening, right after work, so as not to break any rules. I do not know why, but that brief morning conversation with Ryan stuck in my head all day. His gaze and voice had some kind of hypnotic effect on me. No, I have never lacked male attention. Both in my youth and after marriage, I constantly caught their sticky, undressing stares. I turned many down. But from this doctor emanated something completely new, unknown, and therefore alluring. After brushing my teeth and generally making myself presentable, at exactly 6, I hung my white coat in the locker and scurried up the stairs to the second floor. My knees were shaking noticeably, but not because I am afraid of dentists. This was definitely something else. It was only much later that I understood what my female intuition had picked up on. While he was treating my tooth, we could not really talk for obvious reasons, but I noted to myself that this doctor knew his job, and I mean 100%. Every action and movement was precise and deliberate. The calmness and confidence radiating from him eventually had an almost lulling effect on me. I would not have believed it if someone told me you could doze off in a dentist chair, but I really was fighting sleep while Ryan's skilled fingers in thin latex gloves worked inside my mouth. Through my drowsiness, he seemed both so far away and so close. I even caught myself dreaming that a man this capable could be trusted with more than just my mouth. When the filling was finally in place and the doctor handed me a mirror, I could not see where it was. He had to sit me back in the chair, turn on the light, and point out the barely visible edges with the tip of a probe. By then, Ryan had already taken off his gloves. So, as a nice bonus, I got a few touches of his warm fingers on my cheek and chin. Then he put me in an awkward position when he flatly refused to even name the price of the treatment. No matter how much I insisted, the answer was the same. It costs nothing. A simple human thank you is quite enough. And let us close the topic. With this act, Ryan finally melted my heart. Sometimes it happens that a person does something for you for free, and then looks at you in a way that makes you wish you had paid him. But there was no dirty hint or any other selfishness in his gaze. He behaved like a true gentleman, and it came to him somehow easily, naturally, and without pretense. After locking up his office with expensive equipment and setting the alarm, the doctor and I walked down the dark, empty corridor. When we stepped outside, I wanted to say goodbye and head to the bus stop to catch my minibus. But at that moment, as if reading my thoughts, he gently but firmly grabbed my elbow. "Wait, I have a car. Which way are you going?" "I need to go to Seven Winds Stop." "Great. Almost on the way. Let me give you a ride." "No thanks, it is not convenient. I will take the minibus. They only run once an hour at this time. It will be packed, and at the railway crossing, there will be the usual traffic jam. Do you really want to stand half bent for that long? Come on." Ryan knew all the delights of local transport, apparently from personal experience. Arguing was pointless. Plus, there was an annoying drizzle, and I had no umbrella. So I agreed to turn from his patient into his passenger that evening. We walked out to the parking lot and approached his car. Mechanically, without making a big deal out of it, the doctor opened the door for me and gallantly closed it once I was seated. While the engine warmed up, he took a CD from the glove compartment and put on a relaxation mix. I was pleasantly surprised by his driving style. He did not floor the gas, demanding the impossible from the machine to impress. On the contrary, he moved deliberately smoothly, not succumbing to the rush hour chaos around him, and not behaving like those taxi drivers who are always ready to drive over each other's heads. Pleasant music, the driver's deliberate calm, and small talk. "Your family must be waiting for you," I said to keep the conversation going. "No, my wife is at a school meeting for my older daughter, and the kids are at their grandmother's for the occasion, so no need to rush." "I see." My husband also sent me a text. "Homework is done." He rushed off to practice. "What sport does he do?" the doctor asked with interest. "Freestyle wrestling?" "Oh, good for him. I was into martial arts when I was young too." "Really? Which ones?" I stared at Ryan in surprise. The reflections from passing streetlights highlighted the features of his strong profile. He was taking his time answering for some reason, and I could not tear myself away from the sight. "Different ones. First karate, then judo." He broke the pause in a thoughtful tone. "And freestyle wrestling too, of course. I was interested in everything. Did you want to become an athlete?" I caught myself thinking that I had addressed him informally for the first time. Of course, he did not object, and I myself increasingly felt as if I had known this man for many years. It was a strange feeling. People had told me about it before, but I never really believed it. Now I felt it on my own skin. "No, not really. I just grew up on movies with Bruce Lee, Schwarzenegger, and Stallone." He chuckled in response. "I see. And when I was a girl, I was always falling in love with actors." "And? Did they return your feelings?" "Well, of course they did. And I, silly, after watching a new movie, would spend weeks pining over some handsome guy." "So you were amorous." "I was. But then I grew up and it all went away," I admitted in a very serious voice. But despite the sad memories, a second later we both burst out laughing. I do not know how he did it, but I did not even notice how we turned onto my native Victory Boulevard. That meant I was almost home, and in a minute or two, we would say goodbye. And I did not want that at all. My intuition told me that Ryan did not either. All sorts of silly and wild thoughts crept into my head, but I chased them away. Clenching my will into a fist, I thanked my benefactor, closed the car door, and headed toward my building entrance. The whole next day, these events would not leave my head. I was angry at myself for it, but I could not help it. Ryan's unforgettable voice and his face illuminated by the streetlights kept surfacing in my mind. Luckily, our paths did not cross that day or the next. He did not appear at the morning meetings for some reason either. And during the day, running around the sanatorium, I mentally thanked this huge multi-story building for giving people a chance to avoid awkward encounters. But why awkward? I have to admit, subconsciously, I was actually looking for a chance encounter. I even deliberately made a detour a couple of times to walk past the dental office. Glancing at the closed door, I kept trying to imagine his skilled hands in latex gloves working inside some young patient's mouth. How he would glance at her full curves rising and falling with her deep breathing. Damn. Why did that make me so angry? Only about a week later did I start to calm down. Constant inner reminders that I had a husband and a son, and that I was no longer that amorous, foolish teenager, did their job. I felt much better. and I stopped seeking or fearing a chance encounter with Ryan. I even began to respect myself more for finally getting myself together. However, all these successes of mine turned to dust in one moment. The very moment he unexpectedly called out to me as I was walking past the parking lot toward the bus stop in the evening. "Irene, hi." That familiar and pleasant male voice instantly disarmed me. I had played out the scenario of a chance meeting many times in my head and had prepared myself to act as neutrally and even indifferently as possible. But then, it was as if a net had been thrown over me, immobilizing my arms and legs. All my false pride and all my prepared cold replies instantly evaporated somewhere. "Hi," I blurted out joyfully. "Long time no see." With just that phrase, which I almost shouted, I had surely given myself away completely. "I went to London for a couple of days," the doctor answered with a barely noticeable hint of embarrassment. "To see relatives?" I asked automatically for some reason. "No. There was a presentation of new equipment by a German company. So I talked the management into a business trip. Successful? Overall, yes. Now I have to push through the purchase for our sanatorium." "I see," I mumbled, looking at the sky because a few cold raindrops had just fallen on my forehead. "Are you in a hurry? Let me give you a ride." "Oh, thank you, but today I am going in the complete opposite direction. I promised to stop by my friend's place." "That does not matter. Get in." "But she lives in Arlington Heights," I mumbled, already walking toward his car. "It does not matter. It is not the moon." I obediently sat in the front seat, and Ryan walked slowly around the front of the car and got behind the wheel. The engine was already running. I brought my cold hands to the stream of warm air from the heater. At that moment, as if on cue, cold autumn raindrops began to drum on the windshield. I even shivered. "Thank you. You seem to know when I'm without an umbrella." I was being sly. The umbrella was at the bottom of my purse. "Well, I am a psychic after all," my driver said mysteriously and pulled away smoothly. "A psychic," I whispered to myself, watching the wipers dart back and forth across the windshield. Yeah, here it was again, that stupid teenage feeling of being in love. This time we did not chat as much, but he held my hand almost the entire time. And not just held it, he gently stroked my palm, both on the back and on the inside. He started doing it because he saw me warming my cold fingers by the heater. At first it felt a bit awkward, but I did not object because I knew no one could see us. Now my hand had long been warm, but I did not want him to stop caressing and stroking my palm. Ryan also got carried away with this process. Only occasionally did he move his hand to the steering wheel to navigate difficult turns. But then he would return to my palm, obediently waiting for him on the gear shift. The longer we drove, the clearer I understood that this time I would not simply close the car door and walk to the entrance. I did not know exactly what would precede that, but mentally I was ready for any madness. Well, almost any. After about half an hour, we turned off the main road onto a service road and then into a courtyard. The asphalt there was broken. Weaving between potholes and parked foreign cars, Ryan steered with both hands, and my lonely palm missed him on the gear shift. "Which entrance?" The doctor broke the silence. "The last one? Actually, that corner one." While he was parking, I perked up and almost resigned myself to the thought that I would have to get out now. Our car almost nosed into a brick wall. The headlights went off. To our right stood someone's huge SUV, and to our left stretched the darkness near an unlit entrance. Somewhere far behind us, a single street lamp burned. The faint reflection of its light barely allowed us to distinguish shapes. For a few seconds we sat in the dark car in silence. Then I decided now or never. I turned to Ryan and reached out to kiss him on the cheek goodbye. He deftly turned and moved toward me. Our lips suddenly met in a hot kiss. His hand went to my neck and pulled me toward him, leaving me no chance to pull away. But I did not even think about trying. Instead, I put my hand on the back of his head, ran my fingers through his curls, and also pulled him toward me. Oh, what a long and passionate kiss it was. In the heat of passion, his large hand began to stroke my back, my neck, my elbow, and then my waist, my thigh, my knee. Unbridled passion was taking over us more and more. It had been a very long time since anything like this had happened to me. "Ryan, Ryan," I barely muttered as my lips and tongue were completely under his control. "I want to do something for you that I thought about the whole way." "And what were you thinking about?" He whispered right into my ear and continued to kiss me even more passionately, leaving a mark. In response, I silently moved my head, partially freeing myself from his strong embrace, and began to bend lower and lower. He did not resist. Both my hands began to struggle with the button of his trousers. Ryan clearly did not expect this, but he reacted correctly. He slid down a little in his seat and spread his thighs slightly to make it more comfortable for me. I will not say I'm a professional at this art, but I had done it for men sometimes. I cannot say for sure if they liked it, but no one complained. And my doctor did not resist either. He placed his broad hand on my head and began to set the rhythm. I tried my best, but I did it gently and tenderly. Finally, Ryan finished. "Wow, you are something else," Ryan whispered admiringly, continuing to stroke my head with both hands. I could not think of a reply. I just returned to my seat and began to tidy myself up, trying not to look in his direction. "So, you are staying overnight at your friend's?" the doctor asked in his normal voice. "Yes, I have a day off tomorrow. My husband let me go until tomorrow evening for once." "I see," he said thoughtfully. "You know what? How about I pick you up tomorrow at 3? "At 3? I blurted out in surprise. "Funny that you did not ask why, just confirm the time." The man laughed sincerely. I also laughed and began to make excuses that I had actually wanted to ask why. But it was useless. And the more I excused myself, the funnier it became for both of us. The masks were off, and hiding our mutual attraction was pointless. "By the way, my husband does not expect me home tomorrow before 8 in the evening," I coquettishly clarified. "Well then, that is perfect." And so it was decided. I went to visit my friend, and he drove home to his wife. Oh, how I wanted to tell my friend everything. But the remains of my reason suggested that I should not. At least not yet. In the evening, we had more than enough topics to talk about anyway. We chatted until late at night. But in the morning, I started constantly glancing at the clock. "Why do you keep looking at the time?" My friend caught me. "I promised my husband I would be home after lunch," I lied. "There you go, as always." And I thought we would chat some more. And it seemed to me that when I took my second shower of the day around 2:30 and started putting on makeup and getting ready, she still suspected something. "Too bad you have to leave so soon. Well, go on. Run to your beloved husband. Do not be offended." "We have been meaning to go to the hardware market for a long time. We need to check something out there, and then stop by another place." "Yes, yes, of course. I understand everything." The sarcasm in her tone was undisguised. "Say hi to your hardware market for me." I walked out of the entrance at 5 minutes to 3. Ryan's silver sedan was already parked in the exact same spot as yesterday. Seeing me, he hurried out to open the door for me. "Hi," I smiled shyly. "Hi, you look great. Thanks. How was your visit with your friend?" "Fine. Except that I hesitated, not sure if my complaints would be appropriate." "Except what?" the doctor asked sympathetically, already pulling out of the courtyard. "Well, you see, my friend is a vegan and lives alone. And of all the things she has been feeding me since yesterday evening, the only edible things I found were a mandarin and a raw carrot." "Well, well, why are you surprised? Lots of people are obsessed with this topic these days." "But that is wonderful," he said. "What is wonderful?" I was puzzled. "It is wonderful that right now we are driving to a cozy place where they will first feed us deliciously." Wow, you really are a psychic. I was somehow 100% sure that when we met, you would be hungry. After this phrase, he winked conspiratorially and put his hand on my knee. I was ready to smother my savior with kisses. But I restrained myself and simply placed my palm on top of his large, warm hand. I did not care where exactly he was taking me. I just felt good and calm next to him, and the prospect of spending the next few hours alone with this man was pleasantly thrilling. Something told me that where we were going, I would not only be fed, the cozy place was located in the nearest suburb, on the grounds of a wellness center. By the time we arrived, a luxurious table with an abundance of cold appetizers had already been set in a private dining room. Soon hot dishes were brought out as well. I pounced on the food like a madwoman. Ryan smiled as he watched me and kept adding more treats to my plate. Then we were told that the sauna was already heated for us. At first, I was lukewarm about the idea, but decided not to argue. In the clean locker room, there was a huge table where the waiters had brought wine and snacks from the restaurant. The doors closed, and we were left alone. Ryan turned on the dim light and some pleasant music. The atmosphere became very cozy and even quite intimate. We spent the next half hour at the table, drinking delicious wine and chatting sweetly about this and that. I feel like warming up a bit. Do you want to? Ryan asked, drawing a line under the long conversation. I do not know. Well, maybe. Ryan quickly undressed and took a shower. I will wait for you. Do not be late, he said, winking again as he opened the sauna door slightly. The alcohol I had drunk helped me overcome the last of my shyness. I also undressed, used the shower, and entered the sauna. The hot air pleasantly stung my skin. We sat down next to each other, spreading a sheet on the wooden bench. He took my hand again and silently began to study me. I also gazed at his muscular body. Ryan poured some boiling water from a special tap into a ladle and splashed it onto the hot stones. The water hissed and evaporated instantly. The air immediately became saturated with hot moisture and began to burn mercilessly with every breath. Startled, I panicked, jumped up from the bench, and stood at full height. But that only made it worse. My experienced companion immediately understood what was wrong. He wrapped his arms around me and made me sit back down. Sorry I did not warn you. All the heat is at the top. If it burns, you need to stay lower. Okay, now I will remember that for a long time. I spent the rest of my time in the sauna on the floor, squatting. My companion paced around. With his hands behind his head, he exhibited his beautiful body to invisible but apparently very healing infrared rays. All I could do was glance at the hourglass, mentally urging the slow grains of sand. I think that is enough for the first time, he concluded when the contents of the hourglass had completely migrated to its bottom half. Holding his hand, I stood up, and we finally left that inferno. I took a deep breath of the cool air several times. Then my head suddenly began to spin. My eyes went dark, and my feet got tangled in my flip-flops. A couple of minutes later, I realized I was lying on the table, with only my legs hanging down. Ryan was sitting opposite, holding my hand. I had no recollection of how he had laid me on my back on that high oak tabletop, also managing to spread a sheet under me. How are you? Better, thanks. I do not know what that was. Do not worry, that often happens. Especially when you are not used to it. You need to drink something now. He poured me some blackcurrant cordial, and I greedily downed the huge glass in one gulp. But I did not want to get up at all. My head fell back onto the hard tabletop. Let us do this, he said, and placed a rolled-up bath towel under my neck. Are you okay? My suitor and savior asked. I am fine. To confirm my words, I smiled slyly and winked at Ryan. I do not know why I became so bold, but after all, we both knew why we were here, and time was not unlimited. Ryan smiled back briefly and sat down on the bench again. With a completely serious face, he began to look at me. The very first touches of his warm fingers sent pleasant goosebumps all over my body, and I knew this was not all. Moreover, we both understood that we were not here just for caresses. I was looking forward to my kind, caring doctor showing me what he was capable of as a lover. And he did not disappoint. From the new and unexpected sensations, I lay motionless, just gasping for air with my mouth open. And he did his work, not fast and not slow, not rough and not smooth. It was as if he could feel me. Each of his movements carried me further and further away from mundane reality. I just enjoyed myself and went with the flow. Passion finally took complete control of me. And then finally, the end. And we lay there kissing, satisfied with each other. I had never had this with my husband or my few lovers. Maybe it was the heat of the sauna, or maybe it was Ryan's skillful actions. But at that moment, I experienced such bliss as every woman dreams of. Then we ordered dessert. It was fried ice cream. The name itself sounded unusual, but the dish turned out to be quite real, although I had never even heard of it before. That was not the only discovery I made that day, and certainly not the most important. We enjoyed the delicacy greatly. My head was a little dizzy, and in my lower abdomen I felt a pleasant flutter now and then. Both Ryan and I were in a state close to euphoria from what we had just experienced. He kept touching me, stroking me, hugging me, and holding my hand. Everything around me seemed somehow magical and unusual. We drove back by taxi. Law-abiding Ryan would never get behind the wheel after a couple of glasses of wine. In the back seat, he kissed me the whole way and did not let me out of his embrace. Oh, how I wished then to remain forever a prisoner of his charms and never return to ordinary reality.